I want to start. How much time do I have? Very many people who haven't signed. I haven't signed a book yet. For how many? Still quite a few. Okay, I'll keep it fairly short then, folks. You know, as I'm thinking back, I'm trying to remember exactly how I came up with this idea. But I was doing some research on another topic, and I discovered, to my great curiosity, the fact that Mackenzie King had kept a diary, a daily diary, for 57 years, from the time that he attended the University of Ottawa at age about 18 until he died. It included everything, including conversations with his dead wife, with his dead dog, with it, whatever. Every single day, he kept it very faithfully. Except, very strangely, there are 2 missing months. Now, this diary is on display at the National Archives right now, 30,000 pages of it, except for 2 missing months, November and December of 1945. Nobody knows why they're missing, where they are. Those are the 2 months that Igor Gazenko defected. And so I got doing some more research, and I came across an incredible number of questions, and I decided that I was going to create a story about this. And that's what I have done here. There are many facts. What I have done here, those of you who have read it, I've identified the facts as best we can determine in subheadings in the bottom, in footnotes. The rest of the story is fiction. But I want to tell you, I'm going to be very honest with you. By the time I finished writing this book, there were things in there that made my hair stand up on end, because some of the things that I discovered, I'm still absolutely puzzled about as to how this could be. The missing 2 months of Mackenzie King's diary, for example. And another question, too, that really is puzzling even to this day. Igor Gazenko supposedly came to Ottawa at the age of 23 in September of 1943. Now, in 1943, those of you who know your history a little bit realize that at that point, I mean, Russia was still in a death grip with the Nazi Germany. We did not, the D-Day invasion wasn't until about a year later, June 6, 44. Most of the Soviet Union was still under Nazi domination. And I don't know if you know this, but Himmler, a little rat, had ordered that every single Soviet citizen, 140 million people, were to be killed. Everybody. The only ones who were to be saved were those that he called the cleaner ones, with blonde hair and blue eyes. They were to be created as slaves to be used in this new super world that Hitler was going to create. So this was the situation. So I said to myself, how could a fit 23-year-old, highly trained Soviet soldier come to Canada with his native country and this death struggle with Nazi Germany? So those are some of the questions that are still there. So I want to read a little bit how the book starts. Actually, is that man receives a phone call from someone claiming to be Igor Gazenko, who is 89 years old. He said, all of those stories that you heard about me dying and defecting are not true, and I want you to set the record straight. So let me just start with, he does a little bit of reminiscing here. This is on page 47. This chapter is entitled Ghosts. And just to paint the picture, when he is captive in the Minsk ghetto. This is in Belarus. And the opera house in Minsk and this is true, the opera house in Minsk is where the Germans are assembling all of the treasures from the conquered nations. The Van Goghs, the Monets, the sculptures, they're all assembled in the Minsk opera house and then distributed to the various Germans and so forth and for their homes and so forth. And so Igor Gazenko says that he is working in the opera house. And here is the chapter 7 entitled Ghosts. Today, the renovated and very modern Minsk Opera House on Paskanisky Kamena Square is one of the most beautiful in all of Europe, home to the National Academic Great Opera Theatre of the Republic of Belarus. 3 years ago, I decided the ghosts had been sufficiently banished to allow me to return to the country of my birth for the first time since the war, and at my wife's encouraging, to once again walk through the doors of the Opera House, this time as a free man. My own safety surely was no longer an issue. The hunters, convinced I could no longer do them any harm, had long ago given up their search, or at least that is what I believe. Everyone involved was dead now anyway, except me. With what I guess you would describe as a morbid kind of fascination, I had for years here in my little cliffside hiding place devoured all of the news about the Opera House I could get my hands on. I took some pride in knowing it was here that world-famous singers such as Ludmila Shmentak and Maria Guglania launched their brilliant careers, and the children's matinees featured performances such as Peter Pan, Puss in Boots, or Magic Music were also renowned the world over. Today, I tell myself, as my wife and I join the crowds entering the building, this place has become a stage for the magnificence that man is capable of, a cathedral of beauty and art and joy and children, a home for angels. How very different, I think, from the winter of 1941-42, when this was a house of horrors, a place of death and cruelty, hopelessness and despair. Mankind at its very worst, a place fit for no one but devils and their disciples. When I was last here, I was a slave of the Nazis. All the wooden seats had been stripped from their moorings and thrown into the street where residents had spirited them away for firewood. Sadly, we inmates could have used them ourselves to feed the basement furnace, whose spasmodically flickering flame was seldom able to bring the winter temperature above freezing. Today, as we enter this splendid new opera house, my wife takes one of my hands in hers and softly caresses it. "You're trembling," she says. "I haven't noticed. Would you like to go back to the hotel?" I shake my head, but my heart pounds. I think I am doing fine, walking briskly down the aisle to our seats when suddenly, there it is, a pile of filthy rags. Through morning clouded eyes, a dark smudge amidst the clutter, beak-like fingers curled in final terror around the grillwork of the floor vent. Just in front of me, a frozen corpse. My wife gives a soft cry. "What's the matter? Are you all right?" I'm clutching her arm hard enough to cause her pain. "Ghosts," I say. "Just ghosts." I recall how the poor fellow must have climbed down from his frigid bunk during the night while the guards slept, and how, not realizing or perhaps not caring that the furnace was out, he lay down on the floor vent trying to suck some heat out of it and froze to death. My wife strokes my hand. "Shh," she says. "The music. Listen. It's beautiful." The thing that strikes me is that there is very little inside that appears familiar. The seats are all new and very modern. Much of the architecture has been altered. The stage is completely new. I know that only too well because during that terrible winter, we ripped and hacked it to pieces in a largely vain attempt to keep the furnace fueled and thus ourselves alive. The German guards in their greatcoats, heavy boots, and thick gloves laugh as the once proud stage slowly disappears into the voracious maw of the furnace. From somewhere they have acquired a large gas heater, which, as they often tease us, keeps them nice and toasty in the balcony offices they have converted to a small barracks. I remember too how the basement and back rooms are jammed with looted treasures from Belarusian homes, churches, cathedrals, and theaters, all being stored for that glorious day when Herr Hitler rules the world and the swastika flies from every flagpole. Tapestries, antique furniture, silverware, paintings, sculptures, and other priceless works of art await that new dawn when they will adorn the homes, churches, cathedrals, and theaters of the new supermen who are creating for us Hitler's 1,000-year run. As with cream, the very best is being skimmed off the top, almost daily by those destined to be the leaders of this brand new world order. And let me